Hello and good evening. I have the pleasure to announce Bernhard Steirer. He just came to us from Graz. He's an initiating member of Elevate Festival. And Elevate Festival has always been very dear to me because they were created very parallel to Schmiede. And they went a little different path. So I invited him today for a theme community and community building. And we just discussed before this talk that he sees himself as a space maker. And so I think I'm going to give it away, and you're going to give us an insight into what happened in Graz and your process and what your thoughts are about the community of Elevate Festival and what your challenges and learnings were. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you for the invitation and introduction, Rüdiger. Opposite of what the title of this talk might suggest, I'm not going to roll out some thesis or theory about what we do. I'm going to talk about some hard facts, soft facts about what Elevate consists of, how everything came together, or at least some part of that history, and give you also some pictures, some impressions of the festival, and hopefully some insights about how it is and how it works. And if there is time afterwards, or I think there has to be time afterwards, we can have a discussion about everything. And yeah, you ask me questions and I try to answer. Okay, I start with the natural habitat of the festival, which is Graz. Graz is it's not exactly small town, but also not a metropolis. It's like 300,000 inhabitants. Lots of students, I think something more than 30, maybe up to 50,000, depending on times. And the compactness of the city is something that is, it's, as you can see, it's a beautiful, medieval city center and a lot of venues that we can use for the festival. So there's it's fertile ground for festivals in general. There is the Steirische Herbst since I think the 50s already. There's the Festival for Austrian Films, Diagonale, and others. So somehow the compactness of the city, I think, is a good opportunity for for festivals to happen there. Walking distance and lots of different things happening on a relatively small space. This is where we are based. That's the three founders of the festival. Two of them are still active. Daniel to the right left the team 3 years ago. He was mainly responsible for building up and continuing the discourse program of the festival. So 3 years ago we had the challenge to set up a new team for that. And yeah, so I think this year was the third or fourth time in a row we managed in this new setting, new constellation as a team, and it worked pretty well. So yeah, there were a couple of changes. We also moved the venue, but yeah, we managed to come back on track and continue with everything as it was before. Some things about our audience. Our audience is, as you can see, or as most of you might know, Graz is very close to some neighboring countries such as Hungary, Slovenia, Italy. And this is also where a lot of our audience comes from. 2/3 of our pre-sale tickets by now, or as of now, are sold outside of Graz. A big part, of course, goes to Vienna, but there's also people from Germany, Czechoslovakia, all of the neighboring countries. But by now, this year we even had people from Australia coming to the festival. So the international audience is growing, and yeah, it's something we only realized now. And I think we had, like every cultural institution, we had a massive dip in terms of international travel for throughout the COVID years. But fortunately, the level of attendance moved back even higher than it was before COVID. So we are very happy about that. The festival is it consists of 12,000 visits, so that's everything added up. So as one could say about Graz, same goes for the festival. It's not a small festival, but it's not a super large festival. It's somewhere in between. So our largest venues have a capacity of approximately 1,000, 1,300 people. But there's lots of different places involved, so you can enjoy a very pluralistic festival experience with lots of different stuff that happens all over the city. These are some of our venues. Not all of them are on this page. In the beginning of the festival, it was really focused around the hill inside in the middle of the city. As some of you may know, part of that hill is a tunnel system that was carved out during Second World War as a shelter from bomb attacks. And I think it was in the year 2000, one of these caverns were extended to what is now called Domenberg, which is like one of our main venues, focusing mainly on club music. And around there's a second venue called Tunnel. There used to be a third venue on top of the mountain, but this one is permanently rented to some cinema now, so we can't access it anymore. So we this year for the first time used Aola, which is actually a quite posh type of restaurant cafe, but we could use this venue for club music program during night times. Besides, there's Orpheum, which is like, if you know Amsterdam, you know Paradiso, Amsterdam there. It's like a multi-faceted venue where concerts take place. There's cabaret, lots of different things. This has proven, this is a venue that exists in Graz since many, many years. And it has proven to be quite essential for the festival. It's a quite versatile venue, so we can do a lot of stuff there, which to our surprise worked out very well all over the years. That is that, and otherwise than that, this is the new place for the discourse program, Heimatsaal as part of Volkskundemuseum. You will see on some of the photos afterwards, Forum Stadtpark used to be the place for the discourse, the conference part of the festival. And after some years we moved because of new opportunities that arise, and that is that. Some key facts about the festival: it lasts for 5 days and 5 nights. As I already mentioned, about 10 locations are involved. We're also doing interventions in public space. The date in former years used to be end of October. We moved it in 2017 to end of February, beginning of March. Due to the time of the year, it's mostly indoor activities that we present. And we always try to create a blend of pioneering artists, emerging artists, of course, also involving the local scenes from Graz, but also from Vienna. We don't make a big distinction there, but let's say Austria. So it's about bringing together a blend of older stuff, newer stuff, and also in terms of genres, there's a lot of electronic music. There is niche stuff. There is also bands. So it's really, for me, it's hard to describe what's in terms of genre. We don't have any preference. It's just we try to capture stuff that is interesting for us in a certain moment and bring it to Graz and connect it with what can be found there. The target audience of the festival is pretty much the same since we started. The age of the target of our audience, or the core audience, let's say the majority of people, is something between 25 and 34. Of course, there's way older people. We also have people in their 60s. We have younger people at the festival. But this is pretty much in the center of things. And one thing that is important to note is from the very beginning, there were like these 2 program pillars. The one was the music and the art section of the festival. And the second one was the conference, the discourse program. In the beginning, we had this idea that we would want to bring these 2 hemispheres closer together by, let's say, invite politically outspoken artists more, or do music-related talks or arts-related talks at the conference. But fortunately, I think now we didn't force or do that too much. So we decided early on that it would be good if the music could be l'art pour l'art, so just good music that would be presented, interesting stuff, and the same goes for the conference. So It's really two hemispheres that are connected through the Elevate umbrella, and of course there's an overlap in terms of the audience, so there are people who attend both, but for us it's totally fine if some people only attend the conference, which is free of charge, like all the way, so it's possible to just go there and listen to some talks, keynotes, attend a workshop, or you visit the music program, and for us both is fine. We're happy if people attend both. We also do a live stream since many years, so that's also another way to experience some part of the festival. And we also host a quite huge archive with many of the, or actually all of the discourse production we did throughout the years. Other than that, another group of visitors grew in the last years. That's also because of our involvement in new projects, and that's professionals from other festivals. We do a lot of co-commissions and curations with international festivals such as Sonar, institutions like Paradiso Amsterdam, Initiator from Paris, and so on and so on. So this also led to a different characteristics of the programming of the festival throughout the year. So there was a lot of input and cooperation on an international scale, and this also changed the way we looked at some of the venues. We also spread out more throughout the city, and it changed things to a positive, to the positive side, I would say. That is that. Okay, that's it's a long list to read through. But this is just for someone who don't know about the festival. This is just some of the people that were part of the conference or part of the opening throughout the years. As you can see, it's quite a range. I mean, we had I think it was in 2018. It was a coincidence, but Pamela Anderson joined the festival. It was in her. I mean, she was in a way activist or interested in activism throughout the years. But back then she started, tweeting about the French Yellow Jacket movement in the beginning, where it wasn't, looking so sketchy as it became later on. So it was a lucky punch. But I think she also came because we had Julian Assange for one of his last public appearances out of the embassy in the year before. So we had Slavoj Žižek last year. This year, Alexander van der Bellen, the Austrian president, joined us for the opening. This is him doing the opening speech there. So it's quite a variety of people that visited the festival in the conference over the year. Some well-known, some from the activist spectrum, independent journalists, programmers. So it's a lot of different fields that we present and discuss at this part of the festival. This is just a photo of the new conference venue where we moved 3 years ago. This is actually Milo Rau on this screen. This is the festival edition that just happened. It was our 20th anniversary, so it's already not 20 years, but the 20th edition of the festival that just took place. And this festival edition, just to give you an example about how the festival looks like in terms of scope, involved a total of 45 events, more than 10 venues, 34 speakers, and over 70 acts and artists in total. So this is the discourse lineup that we presented this year. And Western Promises was the overall topic. So we choose an annual topic for every edition each year. And this year we discussed a lot about the crisis of Western democracies and also this quite ambivalent wording begriff of the West. And so this is what we did this year. In terms of music, again, at least I should have broken it down a bit more. Just to give you some ideas, we had, for instance, Roisin Murphy for the closing concert of the festival. Hyperdub is a British label that shares the same birth year than we do. So we always celebrate this 5-year-step birthdays together. This year they had 20 years of Hyperdub, which was one part of the program. Code 9, the label founder was there, and other than that, it's like yeah, as always, a mixture of genres and personalities that came. This is actually on this picture. That's Zoe McPherson. She did a commission for 3D sound at Dominberg, which is the venue you look at right now at this photo. What else? I mean, I have some impressions left for the end of this presentation to give you some insight about how the festival looks and feels like. So that's some scenes of the music sector. The middle photo is the mausoleum. So we also do, one could say, neoclassical experimental stuff there. It's part of the Dome Church complex, and yeah, we like to do it. It's like the introduction to the festival that happens on Thursday. And so it happened this year again. This guy was the saxophonist Bendy Giske. I think this photo was taken like 5 or 6 years ago. We also do installations in public space. This is like what is it called? The Uhrturm, the clock tower, which is the Wahrzeichen, what does it mean? The landmark of the city of Graz. So we did a projection there that was it was a quite complicated procedure where back then the whole post-truth and truth movement around Trump was quite present in the public discourse. So we had a programmer filter like sentences. You can read something here that had the hashtag truth, and this was projected on the wall of the Schlossberg. And we also gave, he doesn't have a seconds indicator, and we mapped one onto it. That's the old venue for the discourse program at Forum Stadtpark, as mentioned. This is the Schlossberg from the outside. There's also an elevator inside the mountain. In 2018 we started to do commissions there. So elevator music is inserted there. The first was done by Jimmy Tanner, whose idea actually was he went up with the elevator after his gig and said, hey, we could do stuff there. The year after, Brian Eno did a commission for us there. And this year, Dorian Concept contributed a piece. Before it was Caterina Barbieri. So we gave it to new artists every year, and it's a nice tradition, and it's something you can experience when traveling on top of the mountain. So this is the inside of the Stollen system, of the caverns in the cave. Due to this characteristic, we are also quite limited in terms of number of people we can allow to the festival, because it's a quite tricky aspect of the festival in terms of escape routes. As you can see, everything is quite narrow, and it's always a bit of a balance between safety and people enjoying a full-on rave, which is also the goal of the festival. So people should really be able to enjoy themselves. We also use part of these tunnels for broadcasting or showcasing artistic stuff. This is this is Dominberg. This is the largest venue we have. This is it in empty state. Another shot. This is the way to the elevator inside the mountain. Yeah, some more impressions. This is a guy Rüdiger knows quite well. Sanjin, one of our resident artists. He does different stuff every year, I would say. Okay, yeah, and this is the opening of the festival, which is also a quite important part of the whole dynamics of the festival. In the beginning, it's more or less a local event. It's not, most of the international audiences arrive on Thursday and Friday, but this is really the night where we try to present some parts of the program. Most of the times there will be an opening speech by sometimes a very prominent personality, and it's like we try to set the base for the whole festival. We try to present the theme. it's also about, it's not very visible on these photos, but it's also our opportunity to bring together the local political level with the audience. That was Pamela in 2018. Okay, it was also an anniversary edition, 15 years. That's Srečko Horvat. They also did, I think, an Arte Through the Night edition with the both of them back that night. Not a very good one, I have to say. I saw it afterwards, but Arte durch die Nacht it was visible that they were friends. It's I think the good thing about this format is that really random, strange people are thrown into this limousine together, and sometimes it's a bit of a confrontation as well. It wasn't the case in that case. That's one of the last concerts of DAF, Deutsch-Amerikanische Freundschaft. The singer Sebastian Delgado died, I think, a couple of months later on. Yeah, and this was that very good, great concert, the closing concert we had. That's Jimmy Denner, the inventor of the elevator music in Graz. And some other venues. This is the Parkhaus in the middle of the Stadtpark. And this, to the right, is Irina Nalis, the new face of our discourse conference program. So, yeah, I think I could show you more impressions, but I'm actually at the end of my talk, and I'd be happy to answer questions or start a conversation with you.
Are there any questions already? Then I'll start. Before we came here, we had a discussion about how festivals age, and how things change, because when the team gets older and the people, the audience changes, the artists change, here the zeitgeist changes. So for you personally, like how do you how do you put the weights when you program the festival? How do you curate the weights of how much discourse is there, how much music is there? Do you try to keep it balanced, or is there a certain message you want to send out besides your theme?
Well, first of all, it's what we did or achieved throughout the years. So unfortunately, there's not we have to do a photo like that with the whole team, because it's like by now a large team of people, different people. We also work, there's groups of curators in all of the different parts of the festival. So it's like the by now 2 founders of the festival are still active in the programmation, but we are in a dialogue with a lot of people about what they consider interesting, relevant, and it's I think we have this motto that the best proposal, the best idea should win. So we really try to to leave our egos aside. We also ask the same of the people who participate in the process, and really change on a very on a quite anti-hierarchical discussion format about what we want to achieve with the edition. When we started the programmation process, I mean, as all of you know, or people in this room who had the pleasure, or often the pleasure, of organizing events, in the beginning there's often a certain idea. It might be a topic, it might be a theme, it might be a certain artist, but more often than not, this idea or this first idea doesn't work out often. Because of money, budget restrictions. So for me, it's like, you start, also as a group, we start with something, with a certain idea or like an anchor. We try to build something around it. Then more often than not, this anchor breaks away, and we have to find out something, or a different angle, a different narrative for the programming. But the good thing about creativity and programming is it's not a scarce resource. It's in a way it's an infinite resource. Of course, there's only so and so many people you can address or invite. But every time something doesn't work, or we always found different solutions or different opportunities, and this is something that for me is most of the best aspects of working on a program. It's like you always learn that it's not one thing or one way to do things. It's, you know, there's different ways to achieve something. So it's, this is something, a quite open process. And at the end, of course, you have deadlines, you need to announce the program, but something always comes up that is quite also surprising in a good way to us most of the times.
So I also wanted to ask about the growing of the festival, because from the impressions you gave us, it seems to be quite large now with a lot of venues. And I wanted to know how you started out. Was it just one venue, or and how did it multiplicate? Or
I can show you.
I can like add to the question, because I'm like going in the same niche, so maybe I can add to the question. Sorry if I'm maybe misread the title of the event, but I wanted to ask how like to fund and then sustain a festival like this, because when you do have like the commercial section of the festival, but you also have the discourse that's free. How can you like finance it and keep it like stable in a way?
So it's two questions. I mean, the one is the question, but I would say growth. I mean, I think we. Well, that might be different for the rest of the team or for some members of the team throughout the years. But for me, to grow with the festival was a topic, not like the most important thing. But you know, if you do program, if you invite people, you want some people to enjoy or experience your ideas, and because it's a lot of work, and it's not a. The idea was never that we do stuff only for our own, so it was thought for some kind of audience. The growth of the festival, it's a good question. I mean, we never we were always in the. This is maybe in connection with the financial side or the budget or side of the festivals. We were always in the lucky position that we had public support in terms of funding. Our sources of income diversified over the years. In the beginning, it was like a bit of public funding, a bit of sponsorship. Throughout the years, it became more public funding through region, Styria, the city of Graz, but also the state, Bundesministerium Austria. I think 2000, when was it? I think in 2015, we were involved with EU projects before, but it was not so much about artistic projects. In 2015, our first creative project was rolled out. I mean, or better to say, we were invited by the management directors from Lyon that run Nuit Sonore Artifarty there. So then EU funding as an additional source of income was identified, which is a lot of work. It's not. I have to warn you, or some of you may have experience with EU projects. It's not comparable to a normal funding structure. It's really a lot of work, a lot of bureaucracy. We had that topic before as well. In order to gain funds, but also it's very ineffective. But it's a good thing or a bad thing at the same time, because the good thing about this very ineffective decision structures is that it really brings you very close together with the partners you work with. So you spend a lot of time discussing stuff. You spend a lot of time, being together. There is budget that each partner visits all of the other partners in their home territory, so to speak. And it's really a great opportunity to work on program with people from the outset in your city and vice versa. So we learned a lot about through this, and it also it encouraged us back in the days to involve new venues and think of different narratives, dramaturgies, and streams of program, and it worked out pretty well. So I think the years 2015 and 16 were quite crucial in terms of growth. So the festival started to grow in terms of numbers. It's never only one reason, but I think it was one important factor, that these EU cooperations we were part of, and working with other people, expanding our scope in terms of venue, exploring different corners of the city, and to see that the audience was with us. That this was the most important thing. Yeah. Did this answer your question, or only partly?
A little bit. Just because, you know, when you see for example, the mapping on so first of all, thank you for answering the question. But just when you see the mapping on the like tower, when we all know like this, I have like an idea what like just the projectors cost to do something like this.
Yeah, this was a good question, a good example. This was a project that was financed through partly the second EU project that we are involved with, called Reimagine Europe. It's coordinated by a Dutch company. Sonic Acts is a festival that has to do with it, but also Paradiso Amsterdam. Actually, Sonic Acts is part of Paradiso. This was one source of income we used for this large project, and the second one is there is a. It's not a funding institution, but it's called Institute for Arts in Public Space as part of UNIUM in Graz. They have a budget to use for public interventions, and this was a project we proposed to them. So they also, so to speak, chipped in, and yeah. It was quite expensive, you're right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also quite extensive in terms of convincing the authorities that we would be allowed to do stuff with the clock tower. But yeah.
So I would be interested in back then how did you come to the idea of creating this festival? Like, what motivated you? Why did you think it would be something that could be successful?
I think what connected, well, to give you some insights about how everything came together. Me and my two partners, or back then two partners, we got to know each other. We all did events separately from each other, and at some point started to cooperate. This was happening, I think we were quite young, at the beginning of the 0 years, 2002, 2003. And at some point, one of my partners, who is no longer part of the team, he did an event series called Exit Space at a club called Postgarage in Graz. And this event series involved a panel discussion really on the dance floor, and the club music program afterwards. So you could say that this was the blueprint for everything that followed afterwards. And Elevate was basically the idea to put this on a larger, or on the next level, on a larger stage. Also, we discovered that the mountain, or Schlossberg in the middle of the city, had these crazy venues inside, and no one ever had used them all at once. So this was, and so everything came together. It was like this idea, the opportunity with these locations. I had done stuff at the venue there, and yeah, we combined forces. Of course, there were lots of other people and institutions involved, but yeah, this is how it all came together and started to exist. But the idea to combine politics and music was there from the very beginning, on the same level, on a similar level. This is also interesting because back in the days in 2005, when we had our first talks for media corporations, I remember when we went to Vienna to talk with FM4, the Austrian alternative radio station. There, we had this sheet with us that showed our music program and the rest of the programs people wanted to invite. And in the beginning, or in this first meeting we had with their marketing marketing people. They were like, the music program really looks great, but please leave us alone with this politics. And a couple of years later, it was like we really had to fight for the music to have the same focus in terms of media reporting, because by now so many music festivals exist, so many club nights, so many music-related activities. So our USP really was the combination of the two of those. And so it was really a standout feature in a way, even though we didn't think of it that way in the beginning. But I think it was one of the reasons, of course, now I can say that we received that level of public support. Also a bit of a slippery slope sometimes, because of course we are identifying ourselves as a left-leaning progressive festival. But this is something, to my surprise, it worked out throughout all the years and with very different parties, also with conservative parties. They also supported the festival because they saw that it had like this regional outreach, and that it was something that that built a foundation for other things to happen in the city. So this is something I like about the not all conservative politicians, but something I like about the political actors that we had to deal with throughout the years. I think it's respectable, even though that the things that are debated are often not in your own interest, you still enable stuff. And this was the case with the festival in our case.
I really love the idea of music and discourse. It's really fantastic. But what about an area that also somehow combines both of those spheres, let's say, like sound arts, experimental sound arts, where you have the sound also in a political context, and somehow bridging these two things in another way?
Sound art is definitely a part of the programming too. I didn't mention it now, especially, but we had a lot of different sound art projects. But if you ask me, like right now, we didn't do it with political focus. It could be a possible angle. I mean, for us, it's always if a project comes up that has the certain or the right message and is the right project at the right time, we do it. I mean, it's just like we don't exclude everything per se. We also don't include anything per se. It's like, it must be a fit for a certain time, for a certain situation. Of course, it could be a political sound art project could be part of the program, and for sure, at some point it was.
And you discussed that you started with discourse and with music. Before we came here, we talked about that. To what extent do you still see those two merged, or as separate trails of an idea? Because if I think they do they move more parallel or in sync?
Well, I mean, how can I describe it? I mean, I think something that we learned about these two hemispheres, these two program pillars of the festival is it's like, even though we are not trying to impose them onto each other, they are still fruitful to each other. If you a political conference on its own can work, but it's difficult to put something up like that, because it would require a different financing strategy. For sure, it would be with entry. Of course, if you walk through the discourse program and look at different panels there, and you look at the crowd, it's a very diverse crowd. It's older people, but of course you have younger people, and also artists who many artists join the conference because they're super happy about being part of a festival where something like this takes place. So it's a very colorful picture, and the same goes for the for the music program. And also for us it was always very important to invite all of the personalities, you know, that were part of the conference to, you know, to hang out with us and to attend the music program. Also, in many, we always invite people to not only, you know, come and go, but to stay 1 or 2 nights. We even offer an additional hotel night in most cases, because we want people to, you know, to experience the big picture and, you know, to hang out and connect with people from various fields. Also, where I see that this get together often occurs is, you know, behind the scenes, the backstage area, where, you know, people from the speakers from the conference, activists who are present, meet up with artists and hang out and, you know, and talk and have fun. But this is like and also, you know, our crew is also part of the picture. So it's like a lot of people who actually live not in Graz anymore, who come back to the festival, who might live somewhere internationally or in Vienna. So it's also like a huge family gathering, and at the end everything blends together, and is, you know, this is something that always gives me a lot of hope and energy, even though the festival is never easy. But this big get together is something that is, you know, I guess we all know it, but this is, I think at the end of the day, the reason why we're doing what we do.
You said that the festival was moved from the end of October to the beginning of March, or?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I wanted to know why, because I would think also maybe the weather could be nice and more welcoming if it was maybe in October, or is that not a part that is important?
You're right. There's pros and cons to both dates. For us, it was a lot of different reasons. On the one hand side, I think it had to do with our personal rhythm of life. As you can imagine, as you can imagine, being involved with Schmiede, at some point that is happening at September. At some point, we were really getting a bit tired of this rhythm of life that, you know, while everyone is hanging out, having holidays in the summer heat, we had, like, you know, we had to finish our publication, get the website ready, like with 35 degrees in the shadow. So this was something. It was like this dictated the rhythm of our lives for, yeah, I think let's say 15 years or more. Not 15, but 12, 13 years. So this was one thing. I think we were thinking about a different energy from a different rollover over the year, a different dynamic from that. Another reason was that when we started the festival, there were less festivals around us. Consequently, you know, in the 0 years, like literally hundreds of festivals in Croatia popped up. Lighthouse Festival, another festival, you know, started to exist in June. So it was like, from our point of view, there was more and more festivals happening before our festival in autumn. So we saw ourselves at the end of a long line of other things that already had happened, including Steirischer Herbst. And we thought, maybe it's better to start the year with what we do, also not to have to look at all of these festivals and their lineups and programs in order not to repeat or anything. But at the beginning of the year, maybe it's more easy for us to do whatever we want to do, because we are the first big thing in the year. By now this has changed as well. I think there's another festival in Austria that just Lighthouse is doing, but it's a different thing. There's Lighthouse Festival Bad Gastein by now in January, and other things. But this is just something I think it was part of our reflection process as well.
Have you talked about the pandemic? How did you survive it, and is something different than in the years before?
The pandemic. I mean, the pandemic was a challenging situation for us, as it was for everyone, not only in the cultural sector, but especially for people involved in that area. I mean, for us, it was very depressing. It really, I mean, I can only talk about my perspectives. It really made me doubt my own role in society as somebody. I mean, what we try to do as festival promoters, as you know, as people who try to create events, is we try to create momentum. You know, we try to bring people together. We try to create this intensity, and this was exactly what was not possible because of, you know, infections. So everything that we learned to do was non grata. It was not possible. So it was forbidden. It was a really difficult situation for us. For us, it was still completely clear that we wouldn't want to do a digital edition. We did podcasts and stuff also in cooperation with FM4 at our traditional date at March. And in 2021, we moved the festival 2 times for the only reason that we wanted the festival to actually take place in real life, which we managed. We managed it every year. So the first year we moved it first from, we announced a program, a date for March. Then it was clear that there would be a lockdown, so we had to move it to May. Then there was another lockdown there. And from May we moved it to August, and in August we finally succeeded. We used this really terrible situation to, you know, successfully implement a project with Brian Eno, which is an installation. We implemented this in our main club venue, Dom in Berg. So we did an installation there that was not about club music or people, you know, being together in a dance space at all, but we inverted the concept of how we used that venue. We went to where young people back then spent their times. It was like public spaces, parks. So we did music events free of charge at public squares and in a park. Then the last minute restrictions at some day of the festival were lifted. So we moved back with one portion of the festival inside the club. It was very complicated and terrible. But not that the party was good, but it was really like, by now I can't even think about it anymore. It's like, yeah. And the year after, it was, I think, 2022, we set sails for our March edition again. But when another, I don't know which variant it was, but when rumors about a very infectious new variant of the virus came up in autumn, we decided straight away to move to July again. So yeah, which was another great addition. I think back then it was different because there was music venues were allowed to use. It was okay to gather again. So this was the second edition in summer. So we moved during the pandemic. We moved to summer for both of the really heavy pandemic years. And I have to say, what's funny enough, there was no cluster at the festival. We had, through these years where the virus was really like a big topic, we had one case but a single case, which is funny enough. One person, we had to do all these registrations and stuff. And one person tested positive, so we thought, oh my God, now it's starting, but there was nothing, none of our team, no one. Funny thing was that the year after, when we moved back to March, every one of our team members, and I think like a huge part of the audience, everyone who didn't have the virus COVID before or was sick of it, everyone got it. Like, yeah, but it wasn't it wasn't considered dangerous anymore, But people were like having the flu, but everyone. Not me, because I had it 2 times before, but yeah, it was so clear to see, like really, from an empirical standpoint, it didn't matter how many injections, Impfung, vaccinations. No, it was really, did you have the sickness or not? And these people didn't have it, they got it. So yeah, so the virus took revenge in the follow-up March edition. Yeah, so for us it was really important to happen in real life with the festival, and fortunately we succeeded. Another funny side fact was that in 2020 we were one of the last larger events that took place before lockdown. So I think like 2 weeks mid of March was the first lockdown was installed in Austria. And when we were in the Endspurt towards this festival edition, I was everything was planned, everything was booked, and I was really, I even visited the authorities. I didn't talk about it directly because I didn't want to invite them to to cancel the event or something. But we had this conversation about how the whole situation would look like, and it wasn't mentioned with a single word. So everything took place. Of course, we presented certain safety measures that were circulating back then. But to be honest, as you all know from your personal experience, it took months to really establish this new order in how to behave towards people. So the festival happened really like any festival, even though everyone knew that something was coming. So really interesting for me to see also from a human behavioral perspective that even though people know that they shouldn't do something, these automatisms like how you interact with people, how you touch and say hello to someone, it's just something you can't really stop from 1 second to the other. And but nothing came out of this situation. So the virus was obviously not yet there. But 2 weeks afterwards, it was a total lockdown all over Austria, and people started to collect toilet paper. Yeah.
Is the last question? If you want to.
So you're now, for how long, 15, 20 years running this festival?
20 years, yeah.
20 years. So what would you say were the 3 biggest learnings across this long road?
3. Can't even think of one, no. We started with the festival with very big ambitions, and I'm talking about the very first edition of the festival, very high expectations in terms of revenue, that ticket sales, which led to a logic disaster for the very first year. We managed to get out of that and also leave no one behind, but it was tough. So this is something very typical. So it's, I would say, play it safe, or try to play it as safe as possible in terms of finances. This is something we learned the hard way. What else? I mean, some other learnings. It's just I would call it a natural progression. It's when in the beginning when we started the festival, it was like it was like a couple of people, a couple of guys back then, doing stuff. For us, this is still I think this is a lifelong learning process to become a better leader in terms of working with your team and team members. This is something where you are nothing without a great team, and this is something that cannot over exaggerate it or stressed out. It's not about your own vision or about someone else's vision. It's really about teamwork. It's a collective effort, and this is something. If the spirit, if the motivation in this team, in this group is great, then the output will be great, I think, and this is also a very important learning. Well, the third thing is somehow maybe to do. Maybe it's important for me. At some point, I had to learn that my place inside this ecosystem is not necessarily always the same role. It's, you know, I try to fill certain gaps, and it's also not about, you know, my personal ideas. It's sometimes my role is to, you know, help someone to, you know, to work out his or her idea. And maybe, you know, I step aside and leave room or make room for someone else who has a better idea of what to do with a certain opportunity, a certain slot, a certain, you know, arts project whatsoever. Or it could be a panel, it could be everything. It's important to notice when the time is right to step aside and let someone else do something, even though maybe it's something he or she does for the first time. And this is something to stay flexible and to stay fluent in the way you see your role as part of the team is important, I think, and to involve, you know, new members to the team and to, you know, make up space for new things to come.
If there are no other questions, then I would like to finish with one. And so we talked about the past now, the last two questions. So I would like to ask you, how do you see the future of Elevate? How do you see your future? How do you see the future of Elevate? For the foreseeable future, of course.
I think maybe in 5 years we will have a hypertop anniversary again at the festival. No, that might easily be the case if the label continues to put out great stuff. But other than that, I think we would like to carry on in the same open spirit as it was the last 2 decades. On the one hand side, the last 2 decades with the festival is connected with a lot of memories, but at the same time, the time really went by quite fast, which sounds strange, but there's so many memories from various editions that are still so vivid in my mind. It's hard to think that two decades have passed. It's somehow strange, but I think there's. I don't think there's like a specific thing we want to achieve or a specific artist we want to book. I think we would like to, you know, to try to become the best version of our festival character in a way, or continue on the way there, and at the same time know that there is no perfection in what to achieve in what we do. It's, you know, reaching out for different things that have some sort of fascination or momentum, and trying, you know, to put them together in certain settings, constellations, and so that it happens. And most of the times, or often, it happens, but it's not something you can really force onto creative projects or personalities. It's just something. I think we want to create and follow up things that are more than the sum of its parts. This is my definition of, you know, when it happens. You know, something you can't really fully explain or understand, but something is there, and you're honored to witness that thing to happen. And this is, I think, this is what keeps us keeps us doing what we do.
Wonderful last words. Thank you very much, Bernhard.
Thanks for having me.